Getting sick sometimes is actually a blessing in disguise. I've had COVID 3 times before, and whenever I do get sick, it feels like my entire body just decides to crash down on me. And this time is no different. I got the Pyeong Tokgam, which is, I think, the first time I got Tokgam in Korea, like ever. Or maybe it was just like flus and I kind of brushed over it. But I usually get more like stomach pains than I get colds. But the reason why I think it's a blessing in disguise is because when I'm sick, I always find that I consume a lot of content. And while yes, I do think that like normal people do tend to watch a lot of TV and YouTube during times when they're feeling sick, I think that that's when my ultimate like otaku-ness in like watching something will just like hit the max. Like I remember I fell into like Chinese dramas one time when I was sick during COVID, and this time I wanted to watch some classics that I never really got to watch, especially the ones where like the main character is just so strong that there's nothing that will beat it. It's kind of like the comedy style ones where it's like it's just actually so funny. They're that strong. Before I let you know which ones I did watch, I am not positive that I'm not gonna spoil anything today because I'm hoping I won't be able to like spoil all these animes for you. But I do have coffee today. I brought my flannel cloth because I'm gonna brew this today, and we have a lot more anime and language chats to come your way today. And please excuse the voice today. If you're listening on the podcast, my voice probably sounds a little different compared to normal because I'm still recovering from the cold and I don't know when my voice will fully return. But I really wanted to chat with you guys today. So nutty. Can you guys believe it's already February? Like it's already the 5th today that I'm recording this. It's kind of crazy. It's already been 3 months since I closed down my cafe, and I know I keep talking about it, but it's kind of like losing an identity when you aren't doing something that you kind of envisioned yourself to be doing constantly. The weather has been so cold. I know some days are a little warmer than others, but once you don't go out in the cold weather, you kind of keep not wanting to go out in the cold weather. I guess it's also it's a homework for me to figure out something that will pull me out and start going back outside because I've been a complete hermit this past like 2026 so far. Also, thank you guys for listening in. I know that sometimes it takes a little while for me to warm up with the kinds of conversations that we bring on to the podcast because it'll start off with like random things about my life and then it'll kind of spread into like life lessons and things like that, but it kind of takes a little while for me to warm up. Sometimes a little improv will do it, but I promise you there are little moments of fun and inspiring and thoughtful things and insights that I know that a lot of you gain from this. So thank you guys again for being here as we brew our coffee today. It's weird that I haven't really been making coffee for people these days. It's kind of just been for myself, and if any of my family members also want it as well, that's when I'll make coffee for people. But whenever I do go to cafes now, I'm just like, will they take on anyone? Like a one-day barista? Because I'm like desperate sometimes to just like go behind the bar at a cafe and like make coffee. That busy sound of the grinders and the machines and then people taking orders, all of that is something that I kind of miss now that I'm not doing it anymore. It does get mundane when you're stressed about it, but I think there's some joy in that kind of routine as well. And so I really do miss the working at a cafe, but maybe there'll be opportunities for me to be able to help out places in Korea and outside as well. I wonder if people do like guest barista shifts. I wonder if more people would be open to that kind of stuff. Someone asked how I do this drip method. It's something that I actually sold at my cafe as one of like the special hand drip menus. It's basically a lot of coffee in this flannel cloth, and I slowly pour water. There's no like particular exact recipe for it, and I know I get a lot of crap for that because there are people who think that you absolutely need a scale. And in the sense of like standardized and measurements, yes, you do, but that doesn't mean that your cup of coffee won't taste delicious without the scale. So here I'm using around like 65, I think I use closer to like 68 grams of coffee, and I'm adding water slowly. So it's kind of like a combination of like filtration and immersion at the same time of the coffee. And with the 65-ish grams of coffee, I'm actually going to be extracting a total of around 80 to 100 milliliters of coffee. And a lot of people do think that that's a complete waste of the coffee, but For example, even if we say we are going to use 100% of our own stamina when we're doing something and performing something, not 100% of that is going to be the best in producing any results, right? So we're going to be extracting less of the caffeine and the tannins as much as possible, at least from this, so that we don't get that astringent, bitter taste. The benefits, I think, of using this flannel cloth drip method, though, is that compared to, like, it's not really good for coffees where you want like really bright and acidic and flavorful kinds of coffees, in terms of like, if this particular single origin coffee has like a lychee or a strawberry in it that you really want to take out of it, then using a flannel cloth is not going to be as good. This is actually better for coffees where you want more sweetness. And it has a more, I guess, old history behind it too, where people used it in order to get rid of the astringent and bitter tastes a long time ago as well. And so it's good if you have coffees that are a little too dark roasted. If you want something nutty and super sweet, then using this method is actually going to vamp up that. It's got a really heavy body. The aftertaste is very long lasting. While at the cafe, there were several maniacs who absolutely loved this coffee and would bring their friends over and over and over and over again to be able to have this coffee. But I guess the major reason why I sold this, and the reason why I keep bringing it up, is because there are so many different ways of brewing coffee. Not all one way is correct. There are methods to the madness of making a cup of coffee, and everyone has their own recipe and brew, and I kind of wish that more people would be open to asking, oh, I wonder why they're brewing that way, or I wonder what kind of flavors come out of that, and be more curious about the process and the aftermath of the brewing process, instead of taking, I guess, just the methods and the recipes for granted and relying only on like technology to get things done. But of course, technology is great and there's a lot of things that benefit from it, and the deeper you get into it, the more you're like, oh, this is so important in a grinder, or like this is so great in the scale, for example. And I always love to be able to bring those in as well to talk about, as I'm still in the coffee realm. I know a lot of people are curious about like, how much do I need as a home cafe owner / how much do I need as a like cafe owner and things like that. And when I first started the cafe, there were a lot of things in terms of like the equipment that I didn't really know much about, and the more that I was there, the more I learned about it, the more I realized like what's important and what's not, and the choices that people make in a cafe. Like, why do they have this particular espresso machine versus another one, like a Slayer versus a La Marzocco? Like, why do they have the differences? What are the benefits of each? And they all have different, I guess, traits. Much like when you're picking a car or like your phone, for example, it's like, how much do you want to pay for the extra upgrade or like the option or whatever it is as well, and what kind of grinders you need and how many you need, what is it that you want to serve to your customers, etc. But so clearly I don't drink this as is. That would be way too strong. That's another question I do get a lot about this coffee, is it's actually a 1:3:5 ratio. So I'll pour a little bit of this, so it'll be like an extract, and then I'll add water to it. I want to drink it a little lighter today, aka a little bit more watery, so I can continuously drink it like it's just water today. I'm going to keep this here so I can continuously replenish my coffee. There are times where I like to watch an entire season all at once, and sometimes if it's the hype, then I'll watch like the season as it comes out. But I really wanted to just like binge watch like the 12 episode, like 50 episode animes. I went to the website that I go to for my anime, and I clicked on like the trending, like the hot animes, because there are a lot of old classics that I had never finished watching or like never got to watch, and so I wanted to go back and see if there were any that I totally missed that were on this popular list that I hadn't like never heard of before. And so the first one that I watched is The Misfit of Demon King Academy. This is where the Demon King is basically resurrected after 2,000 years of sacrificing himself for the world between like, I guess it was like 4 different kingdoms, and he has the help of the human hero, the Yusha, to sacrifice himself and like divide the different worlds so that they don't like fight with each other anymore. And so he gets resurrected 2,000 years later, and he's this like all-powerful demon king, like no doubt. He enrolls into school again, and he meets people who like start to believe him, and he helps out people, and he's just like a really, really kind person, a kind demon, if you will. And he uses his powers powers to just overwhelm everybody to save people. He is able to, you know, break through time and space and everything because he's just the Demon King. And it's the misfit because people are like, they don't believe that he's the king or the Demon King when he's resurrected because someone had changed the history, someone had changed like the way they view a Demon King, and so he is trying to prove to everyone that he is indeed the Demon King. But I think it's just funny how strong he is and the character is, and just kind of seeing how he proves himself to those around him. It's not actually that deep, it's actually a lot more lighthearted, and it moves pretty quickly. It's only like 12 episodes, but I thought it was just fun to be able to watch a character that's just so kind-hearted, but also has like moments of, you know, romanticness, harem stuff in it, of course, friendships in it as well. So that was one I watched. And the other one I watched was Mashla. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, if it's Mashle or Le or Mash. That one's another one where the guy doesn't have any magic powers, but he just has like bakachikara, which is like insane power or just like strength. Like he says that he's going to defeat everyone with his fist, basically. So watching him try to navigate the world of magic, and he is enrolled in this school to become this divine visionary, which is like the strongest, I guess, magic user of that year, is really funny because he doesn't have any magic, but to be able to see how the author uses just bakachikara, as I said, that like power to prove and like move around and navigate his way through these like different challenges, I think is funny. And what I really like about this anime too is that each one of the characters actually has a unique personality. The author has done a good job at defining like each one of the characters and their personalities in a very fast way. You don't really need that much explanation. Somehow they get along together. Somehow they seem like they're not really having a good conversation with each other because they don't really talk about the same stuff, but at the same time they get along really well. And so being able to combine, I guess, this character and also just the strength he has, and then of course there's like action scenes in it and struggles and friendships, I think is really well done. And of course I know the intro song was like a huge thing, which I didn't know until I started watching this, that's what this was from. But yeah. The third one I watched is Buddy Daddies. This one I got recommended through a bunch of reels. I had seen so many because Meaty, the little girl, is like an absolute adorable little child. I didn't know the daddies were like basically assassins, and they have like dirty work that they have to do, and so they take care of this girl in the process, kind of developing on like, can people change despite the history that's behind them and what it requires of them to be able to change into this new version of themselves that they want to become, and how it is possible even through the sacrifices and things like that. And that was a really cute one. I enjoyed that one thoroughly as well. It's dark and light at the same time. Each character has their burden and their background history that they have to overcome for this family unit to work out. But I won't spoil anything in that one either. Mind you, I watched all of these animes in like the past like week and a half, I would say. And sometimes when I'm watching like simple ones, I kind of watch it in like 1.25, 1.5 speed. I don't know if you guys do that as well, but that's the situation that I was in. The other one that I watched, of course, was Spy Family Season 3. I didn't know the full season came out, and so I watched through all of it. I absolutely loved Lloyd's background story this time. It was so well done that it kind of like brought me completely into that moment of the history. It kind of made more sense now, understanding how he became a spy in the first place, because I think the entire first two seasons was a little more like fun family moments, them trying to conceal their secrets from each other, at least the family members, Anya, Yor, and Lloyd. But I think that couple episodes where they actually released why Lloyd is the way he is and how he's at that position kind of really helped me to see the full picture of the plot, why there's a war going on, what his position is in it, and the background, and how he's able to have grown over these many years from him being a child and losing his family to now trying to continuously, fulfill his role in his job. But yeah, it's one of those famous ones, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people, if you're an anime lover, you've already watched it before. And then the last one I wanted to talk about is Akame ga Kill. I haven't watched this one, and I have heard so much about it, but I never really got to watch it because I think the entire like synopsis kind of felt boring. But it's a pretty full anime for the 20-ish episodes. I think it is. It's like a full arc, right? And I thought there was going to be a season 2 or whatever, but it's only one. Because at the end of it, you really can't create another season with it. So this one's really hard to talk about without spoiling anything. But each of the characters have their specialty, I guess, in fighting. They have their own weapons. But at the same time, what's sad about it is that it's real, I think, and sad because it really shows how war is like and what it means to fight, because every person's life is so volatile. And the fact that they're a group of assassins, the entire like actual government also has their team of like assassins, if you will. They don't really call them assassins, but basically people who they will kill people who go against them. And depending on like where you see the world, like the rebels and then like the main, like the government and like them fighting for each other, they're basically just killing each other and killing people who they don't think that are doing good things in the world. By the end of it, I was just like, well, these guys are just killing for their own morals and values, but is any part of it right? Is it okay to do that? How much of sacrifice do we need for any of it to happen? Like, yeah, it ends on a good note, but at the same time, in this new kingdom realm that they succeed to, build, will that not happen again? And so I think it's just like a constant, cycle. And I think they do a good job with that because the characters are not, all powerful. And at the end of it, you're kind of like, okay, maybe this is going to happen all over again, and it's not going to end. And so it kind of gives you a good, I think, ending to it as well. But guys, this entire podcast episode is basically me talking about a couple animes that I thought were really good. And I hope if you like anime at all, you will get inspired to watch at least a couple of these and tell me what you think of it. But the last couple ones that I started watching is Jack of All Trades, Party of None, and Sentenced to be a Hero. I think Sentenced to be a Hero is super, super good. The first episode is also like an hour long, like Oshino Ko was. And so if you're really into like long beginning animes, then I really highly recommend Sentenced to be a Hero. I think that might be one of my favorite animes this season. I know Free Ren is also out, but I'm waiting for a couple more episodes of that to come out before I start watching. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the anime chat just now. Another reason why I wanted to watch a lot of anime recently was because I realize I go back to different language content, especially when I'm feeling down or when I want to brush up on that language. And so continuously listening to Japanese, I think, has helped me feel more comfortable in the listening and comprehension of it as well. And so using anime also to study. Kind of, not really. On a completely side note, ever since Can This Love Be Translated came out, and I know that apart from this drama, a lot of people have been traveling to the little more local spots in Japan. I've been also a huge fan of going to like little pockets of nowhere around the country. Like I used to, even while I was working at the cafe, I used to travel to like random countryside places in the south of Korea, random places that people wouldn't normally go to. And I fell in love with being able to find pockets of countryside and different places that people wouldn't normally go to that aren't as touristy, and seeing Kamakura as well. Like, of course, I haven't been there as well, but there's so many neighborhoods in Japan that I really, really want to go to now. And so whenever I'm scrolling through Instagram, I have like a bunch of like Korean creators and Japanese creators and like people all over who are just going to like Japan and like finding like hidden spots and stuff like that. But I'm realizing there's so many more people who are traveling to all these like really cool spots already, and really, really hope that I can do that in Japan as well. But yay, go little towns, because that is where you'll find like the ultimate healing, I think, because there aren't that many people around you. You really get to just like enjoy the beauty of finding like a matjip or like a hot spot for food in the middle of nowhere that you probably never would have been exposed to if you hadn't just gone. It's kind of like the idea of soulmates. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but just like the amount of people that are out there in the world that you could be soulmates with, you might not even meet your soulmate in your life because you live so far away. You might speak different languages. You just might never meet this soulmate of yours. That's another reason why I think I like languages so much, is that you get to be able to expand your world view, horizon, exposure to another set of a world because you're able to speak that extra language, and you never really know where that language will take you, and how even if you do travel to that place and you're not constantly exposed to it, being able to understand that language does actually give you a bigger worldview and exposure as well there too. Because you're able to talk to people more, you're able to understand them more. Because you speak their language, they will introduce you to somewhere that you probably wouldn't have been recommended if you didn't speak their language, for example. And it just makes traveling so much more fun too. So I've been also going through a lot of my books recently, and I recently pulled out these two magazines. This one is Mugshot and this one's DoubleSpeak. So Mugshot was my university's like coffee magazine, and I think this was such a cool project that the editors decided to put together, and it made me realize how much of a coffee world there is. There are so many people who write so wonderfully that I wish I could rate all of them to you. And people talk about their first coffee experience. They talk about like the place coffee has in their lives, what it means to everyone around them. And I think that we all had like various similar, I guess, experiences with coffee, and also very different experiences with it as well. But it's fascinating to see how students are able to put coffee and their lives together into a singular, I guess, book. And so my article was Kopi, Kohi, and More Coffee. I'll actually put the photo on the side here. Maybe you can zoom in and follow along. It's only a page long, but I wanted to read it to you guys. It's kind of my beginning steps of coffee, and a lot of people have asked me, like, how did you get into coffee? And so this is how. Kopi, kohi, and more coffee. After a meal or whenever guests were over, my parents would always ask me, Nadia, can you make some coffee? Sometimes with the pout, but often with a smile, I would walk into the kitchen and mentally transforming myself into a barista. The following actions would be automatic. Boil the water in the kettle, pull out the mugs and spoons, take out the mixed coffee, composed of grinded coffee and sugar packaged into a long cylindrical bag, ready to be poured into hot water and served right away. I eventually became a master at taking the kettle off a split second before it would signal that it would be boiled, and also at measuring the perfect amount of water to coffee ratio to fit my customers' preferences. But of course, my barista life did not remain that tedious and uneventful. Last summer, I was finally able to graduate from instant coffee and into the realm of drip coffee using single origin beans. I took classes from a Japanese barista who ran a coffee shop in the suburbs of Seoul. From tasting sessions to practicing how to pour water, I was simply mesmerized by the complexity and beauty of the process. Explaining the aromas and flavors of a Kenya coffee or a Brazilian one was like asking me to test my vision for color and finding a blue square that was slightly darker than the other 20 blue squares, which were of identical shades. Nevertheless, I started to brew coffee daily, rigorously following the steps I was taught for months. Now, half my room has been taken over by coffee. I stare at my Kalita Wave, Hario V60, Chemex, Baratza Encore, and my beans from New York, Boston, Korea, and Philly. But being the greedy Ariel that I am, I constantly think to myself, I've got Kenyan and grinders aplenty. I've got Chemex and light roasts galore. But who cares? I want more. I realize that I am kind of addicted to coffee, but I love to share its flavors and bring people together with it. I cannot wait to see where coffee will take me next. Who knows? Maybe I'll be setting up a coffee shop in San Francisco or Seoul someday. And I remember writing the end of this with like this glimmer of hope that I would somehow be able to not just have coffee within me, but also be able to serve coffee to other people the way I was brewing coffee for our students back when I was in college. being able to set up events where people would be able to come and take breaks from their studying of the finals or whatever it may be was, I think, something that I was prideful of being able to create this event planningness in me. We also used Masked Chocolate at the time. Shout out to them. They're one of my favorite chocolate brands out there, who were able to kindly sponsor one of the events and be able to do like a coffee and chocolate pairing. And so being able to expose more and more people to that kind of place. And I know a lot of people here in this talk about their first coffee experience as well, and that's how a lot of people get into coffee. Like, oh, I didn't realize the coffee was this delicious, or I didn't realize that coffee could taste like lychee. I didn't know that it could taste like oranges, and that's what got me into coffee. And so being able to have one more place and exposure so that people could come in and have that moment of like, oh my gosh, this is what coffee is. Oh my gosh, coffee is such a great social thing. Oh my gosh, coffee tastes so great. Like, I want to know more. Being able to have that kind of environment, I think, was something that I really wanted to do. And I did end up setting up a cafe, not in Seoul, but in the suburbs of Seoul, but still. So, whatever you write could become a reality. I just really wanted to bring this magazine back because I absolutely am so honored to have been in the first edition, and also just the way that this magazine was done, I think, was amazing. Either Alex or Abigail, you are watching or reading or listening to this, not reading, I just want to tell you how much I absolutely loved this concept, and I hope you guys are well. It's refill time. The other one that I wanted to read was my editor's note in the last edition that I wrote for DoubleSpeak. It is the editor's note in here, and so we're kind of veering a little way from coffee and back to languages again. DoubleSpeak, which is our translation magazine, sorry I didn't mention that beforehand, this is our translation magazine from poems of different languages into English. And this was such a fun project that I participated in all 4 years of college. And the editor's note here, I think, kind of speaks volume to the position that I have towards languages and translation. And kind of going back to my previous episode last week where I talked about the drama, Can This Love Be Translated? And then continuously on like translation work. I don't really see myself becoming a full-on translator for books or anything, but I think being able to take on projects like this is something that is a passion project of mine. And so I wanted to read this to you guys because I think very well written and kind of talks a lot about translation and why I think it's so important that we appreciate languages. Yeah. So, dear readers, every year, the translations we receive expose me, teach me, and remind me to be more observant, more gentle, more introspective, and more compassionate, and to further engage with my translations and with people. I become enchanted by the stories I read, wondering who the translator is, who the poet is, captured and absorbed by the words in front of me. I relish interactions I have with others, staying curious and aware of the perspectives of those around me. They remind me to stay relatable, to stay humble, and to stay vulnerable. Nostalgia, pain, loneliness, frustration, love, admiration. These are just a few of the emotions that are contained in this year's magazine in the most raw forms possible. They are naked, but as feelings, they are also approachable. I find translation to be a process in which people can be personal, which I feel is so valuable to us as human and what truly allows all of us to connect. As translators, we guide readers to discover themselves and to realize their vulnerable feelings in the process. Perhaps those readers are ourselves. The experience I have with translation is so well encompassed by the words of the DoubleSpeak staff translation of Amina Said's Je disais le ciel en tête, or I was 10 years old head in the sky. From the second memory of words, the most real emotion is born. Translation is universal and deep. We live among languages, we live through languages, and we express ourselves through languages. The more languages I discover and the more translations I read, the more I realize we need translation. It provides a sense of belonging, a sense of connection, and sometimes a sense of happiness, hatred, or hope. We are then able to stay human with our raw emotions, and languages help us to discover and define our identities through them, guiding us through the unknown. Even if it's for a moment that I can connect with an emotion or with someone, that time spent is valuable. As my grandfather recently said in a conversation, 가까이 하기엔 너무 먼 당신. Or, I want to keep you close, but you're too far away. I feel this way about my relationship with translation, with DoubleSpeak, and all the people that I meet. There's a sense of ephemerality in every aspect of this magazine, but translation still allows me to feel grounded, to feel hopeful. I respect and appreciate others and build compassion for them, even through a few exchanges of words. I never would have thought translating Japanese manga and anime would guide me into finding so many people who are passionate about sharing stories through their translations. I am forever grateful for this magazine, for my staff, for advisors, for translation, for languages, and for you. Sincerely, Nadia Park, Editor-in-Chief. I don't know if I've ever talked about, I used to translate manga and anime for fun in high school. I think it was just a hobby that I had, especially because I obviously am an otaku, and there were a couple OVA episodes of Prince of Tennis that were never translated, and so I think I took it upon me and this random person that I found on Tumblr at the time. And I would translate and send over the script, and they would put in the stuff in the manga. And then I also, for the anime, I found these different translation subtitle programs at the time. They were a lot more readily available and easier to download at the time, and I would do just random translation and put them up on the internet. Of course, at the time I didn't know any of that was illegal, and so I don't have them anymore. But maybe if you like Prince of Tennis, you might have come across my translation of some sort in some form somewhere. Because I know one of my friends back in college, they actually were like, oh wait, I actually read that that manga. I didn't know that was translated by you, but that was kind of embarrassing. But yeah, you never know which direction these will take you. And just because I translated anime and manga does that mean I ended up having to stay in that realm. I ended up doing poetry as well. So I think that also kind of relates back to this theme that I'm trying to put my head around, is that there are people more so nowadays that have different skill sets in different areas. For me, it's languages and coffee, but they're very different skills and they're very different areas. And so trying to figure out where I can combine the two together has been a homework for me. It's kind of the same with any person and personality. It's trying to look at yourself and understanding what your strengths are and seeing what you can do with them is, I think, another level of introspection and skill to be able to understand how you can connect the two together to put into the world in a different way that the world has never seen before, or to be able to take that as an advantage and bring that into something else that you're working on. For me, I think currently I have these skill sets and they're not fully developed into the point where I'm super proud of them, but I know that they're skill sets and I know that there's something from them that I have learned that I want to be able to portray and utilize in whatever work that I do in the future. But currently, right now, it's a little messy, and I'm still working on trying to figure out what I can do. But if anyone has any ideas, I would love to know your thoughts, because I'm still thinking about what I can do with all these languages that I do know, the background that I have in actually having run a cafe, and I don't want to downplay or upplay any of them as well. And I think that's another reason why I feel a little bit more stuck on what I want to do with them, if that makes any sense. And I know a lot of people are struggling with the same thing as well, because we're so prone to all these distractions that we have so many interests in so many different fields that we kind of become like the anime that I talked about before, these jack of all trades but party of none. And so we have all these skill sets, but we don't know how to work with them, and we don't know how to appeal these traits to other people as well. And being able to find, I guess, opportunities that will allow you to use all of them or some of them in a situation, I think in itself is a rare thing to find as well. And so how can we be a little bit more proactive in using these skill sets in, the delivery of a project, or in helping other people, or in finding a job, I think is something that a lot of people struggle with. And I kind of want to bring in all these people who have these different, I guess, skill sets and challenges, and see what people are thinking and trying to do to survive in this world and promote themselves as well. But I think that's what a lot of influencers are doing in this day and age, being a content creator. I think that's one thing that a lot of people are doing, and showing different versions of themselves and letting their personality shine. But I think that's just one way that I've seen that being used. I don't know if there's other ways, but then again, there's so many jobs and professions in the world that I don't know about either, that I know that someone is making tons and tons of money, or at least enjoying themselves in being able to utilize the skills that they have. And I guess that's the major question, and also a summary of today's episode. Basically, I have talked about anime, and I talked about coffee, or I talked about languages, and I talk about all these different things, especially if you guys are listening only through my voice. I hope it's not too chaotic, but bringing together all these different feelings and experiences that I kind of talk about, like the emotions and bringing us to a different level, and connection, and language is connection, coffee is connection. It's leaving a lasting impression of some sort and feeling safe and sound and calm and human and vulnerable and loved. And the whole theme, I guess, is finding love and connection and belonging. And we're all trying to do that in some sort of way in anything that we do. So hopefully this episode is up before Monday, February the 9th. Hopefully, Nadia, you have posted this before then, because I'm actually going to a photo shoot on Monday. You can check out on Instagram how that went. But it's the first time I'm actually getting my makeup done and a photo shoot, because I've never actually had like a photo done for like professional reasons, and I felt like maybe it was time for me to be able to present myself in that light and just take you guys along in that journey, because I'm a complete, just random regular human on the internet, and I kind of just wanted a photo to just commemorate the different kinds of potential good things that may come my way in the future when I might need a profile photo for something. But yeah, go face your fears, because that's what I'm doing on Monday. Even though you might not feel perfect enough for it. Like, I don't have the best body, and because whenever I get sick, my hormones and my body, my internals kind of get like ruined, and so my entire face is also not completely healthy, but that's okay. We are being vulnerable at the same time, but also trying to challenge ourselves. And hopefully by the next time I take a photo like that, it'll turn out a lot more beautiful. And so it's all about growth, because today is not going to exist anymore in the future. This moment is not going to exist 5 years down the line. The future is going to be a completely different version of me. So there's no reason not to love ourselves today. Thank you guys for listening today, and I hope you have a lovely, lovely day. Stay warm and don't get sick.